Hello, everyone. Welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Yeah, still mid-overhaul, still no football, still...
I wouldn't call it mid-overhaul, I'd call it nearly the end of the overhaul.
That's true. The Burnley Watford game at the weekend does kind of make overhaul a little bit awkward for a few reasons, really. I mean, we're almost definitely not going to get any fixtures before overhaul. We might get some on Friday, but I think it's not going to happen. So we will get some maybe on Monday, which is just annoying because it's before the next set of full fixtures, but after this Burnley Watford game. So, you know, if they got postponed, Burnley Watford, for whatever reason, do you think they'd extend overhaul until Tuesday?
It'd be a massive bonus, wouldn't it?
Do you think they'd extend overhaul until Tuesday or still keep the overhaul deadline the same?
No, they'd move it to Tuesday, wouldn't they?
Which would be nice.
So, I mean, how are we going to get it called off now? Nothing's getting called off for COVID now unless there's a serious outbreak. Yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to put in like bomb threats or... Because no one really wants a Burnley or a Watford player, really.
No, we do not. However, we also only know one other double, or let's say one other rearranged fixture, because we don't really talk about double game weeks in good old Sky, do we? In Manchester United and Brighton, which is in the week after the midweek fixtures, after round 4 of the FA Cup.
We could, as you said, we could get some fixture announcement before overhaul, but I think it's unlikely. It seems to make sense at this stage to wait for the FA Cup fourth round fixtures to go from a scheduling perspective. Then there's fixtures that can kind of get added into match week 27. That's not necessarily a Sky match week. That's kind of after match week 27 when it's the FA Cup fifth round. For example, right now, Villa v Burnley or Leeds v Villa. I think Villa v Burnley would be the more likely. Can definitely go into that midweek. But we spoke yesterday, and I'd recommend even for Sky listeners to listen to kind of the FPL podcast we did yesterday, where we spoke a lot about potential fixtures, what could go well. If Leicester lose on Sunday, for example, Leicester are almost definitely going to have a fixture in that midweek out of a sheer necessity. And it might be that they would play Burnley and then Villa end up with no fixture that midweek, for example. So it just makes sense from a fixture scheduling point of view to wait and see which Premier League teams drop out the FA Cup at the weekend.
I think my initial question to you, obviously we need to finalise our overhaul drafts by, let's say, Friday. Officially Saturday morning. But generally by Friday we'll be announcing.
Saturday afternoon. Remember, we've got till 6 o'clock, haven't we?
Oh, it's an evening kickoff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got a bit of time, but by Friday we should kind of know the direction of travel for the majority of players. From the fixtures that we know, additionally, are there any players that you're almost definitely going with to start with?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Cancelo.
Yeah.
Mo Salah.
Yeah.
Almost definitely Jared Bowen.
Yeah.
And the rest is generally up for debate.
Yeah, I'm thinking at the moment, Nick Pope covers me off Burnley, and Burnley have a lot of rearranged games. So I feel like Nick Pope has Tarkowski didn't leave right in the window, so defensively they're not going to be too bad. I think Nick Pope really is there as a... Yeah, I definitely will give me cover, and also Burnley have a lot of games to rearrange. So just as a set and forget type keeper, over the course of 8 to 10 weeks, he'll have more fixtures than most. Cristiano Ronaldo with the 2 Manchester United games.
He's not a lock for me.
Yeah. He's there up there. He's definitely not filling me with joy. Adam Webster, however, is creeping up the rankings because he covers me off that Manchester United Brighton game, and I'm fine with that. So if I went with Webster, Ronaldo is very expendable for me. So Adam Webster's definitely creeping up the rankings. Adam Webster's also well priced, so I may not need another enabler in Norgard or whatever else if I get Adam Webster. So the Pope Webster are definitely now really interesting options for me, and then Ronaldo there if you want to cover it off. I mean, his ownership's going to be high, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yes, I'd certainly think it is, because there's a lot of United captaincy days available as well in the early weeks. I genuinely have not done a draft yet at all. I want to get kind of all the information in my head first. I mean, there's little things like Rafinha possibly picked up a knock for Brazil last night. We potentially need some information on that. We may not get it because, remember, Leeds are out of the FA Cup. There's no reason for Bielsa to go and have to speak to anyone between now and Saturday. So he took a heavy knock. It's thought that it's probably okay, but it's the sort of one where some information would be very handy because I'm sure there's a lot of people do want to start with Rafinha, as they've got some fairly decent fixtures to start with and some possible kind of backup captaincy options as well. What I want to do on this podcast is rather than kind of put...
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't have a draft and I don't have a draft, thank you for listening and see you next week.
No, I think what's more worthwhile here is people are going to end up in a similar template from kind of a block of, I think, probably 30 or so players generally. As a lot of people are going to end up with sort of 8-9 players the same. It depends on what your rank is as well in terms of you trying to protect, are you trying to chase. I think the majority of people are trying to chase, but it doesn't mean you have to chase right at the start, particularly if obviously you've got transfers in hand. What I wanted to look up here is kind of coverage over the next number of weeks to see what we actually physically need. And the first decision we've got to make, Suj, as you already alluded to, is obviously Saturday with Burnley and Watford. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a skip. The reason I don't think it's a skip is I think even if you don't want a Burnley player, for example, you got a 3-0 over most teams straight away with the effectiveness of the captaincy on Saturday. Therefore, it makes it worthwhile, in my opinion, to start with one. I think for those with less than kind of 15 left, maybe even 16 or so left, and genuinely don't want anything of Burnley whatsoever, it is skippable. I think above that, I think the majority of people should start with one. Now, Nick Pope's ownership, fairly obviously, is going to be pretty big, isn't it?
Huge.
The other thing
you chose him for the old picture on the Twitter questions.
Of course, yeah. I know the majority of people are going to start with him. The one that's really annoying is actually that they play Manchester United on Tuesday. Because if United were playing Wednesday or Thursday, I genuinely would consider going Pope for the 2 games and moving it straight on. But De Gea's where I'd want to move it. And I think if you don't start with De Gea, with each passing week, the attractiveness of De Gea lessens and lessens because from match week 28, they've got a nasty fixture swing where perhaps you don't want that player as much. He does also offer some really good captaincy coverage. If you're going with Ronaldo early on, for example, United v Brighton, if you're not going to go with a Brighton player, do you trust Ronaldo? So definitely start that night. Bearing in mind it's 3 days after they play Southampton. Chances are he probably does. But I think most people's idea over this period of Ronaldo in sort of December and January was, I do need some backup for him. At some point he's not going to play. And that remains the case. And De Gea pound for pound is the best United asset in the game right now.
Yeah.
We only have to look at some of his save numbers of recent games. He's been pulling out sort of 7 saves, 8 saves, 9 saves. So he's regularly hitting saves here too. You know, if it comes with a clean sheet, you're looking at a 12-pointer, or per the game against Norwich in December, 15-pointer with the man of the match. He's one of them rare keepers that is very capable of picking up a man of the match in a narrow Manchester United win, I think. Most people are going to go for Pope. Weghorst, who's come in, a little bit interesting, Suj. Do you know his price?
6.5 million.
No, don't be silly.
Wrong game.
Is he actually 6.5 in that? I think he might be.
He is 6.5. I think I'm going to have a stab at 7.4.
He's 7.6.
Oh, not far. Not far. I thought it'd be below Antonio levels, but just a little bit.
Now, rule of thumb in this game, what do I always say about Burnley?
Don't buy...
Nick Pope on no one, right?
Yeah.
However, similarly, one of the things I'm thinking in my mind at the moment, potentially, and this is by no means decided, is to start with De Gea and start with Weghorst. And the thinking with that being that I could drop Weghorst to Armando Broja as early as Wednesday.
Okay.
Rather than start with a Southampton player. Puts me then $1 million in the bank to go against future problems, which would mean I'd probably max out nearly my full 100 million budget at the start, knowing that I would potentially add $1 million quite quickly. If you're not going to start with a Southampton player, really the only entry point is Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So I'm weighing up in my mind, it's kind of Pope v De Gea, and am I happy to go Weghorst? Is that worth the transfer? Get him in straight away, captain him on his home debut, have him for the United fixture, move him to Broyo as early as Wednesday, just get it done. The other thing, of course, people thinking about with Pope is they've got all these extra fixtures to add.
Yeah, as I was saying.
And as I've already alluded to, that midweek of the FA Cup 5th round, at the moment, if all the big clubs go through, there's a good chance they're going to play Villa. So if you don't go with a Pope, or you're looking to move it on, perhaps like I am with Weghorst, do I need to consider starting with a Villa player? And these are all the kind of spin-offs of one original question that adds layers to the thinking. So if I go with Weghorst, have I got to start with a Villa player? If I start with Weghorst, I'm probably not starting with Ollie Watkins, because then I've got Salah. What am I doing with Ronaldo? Am I even going with three up front? You're going to
ignore him.
Then do I go back to like the first overhaul problem of Emi Buendia, who I started with at the start of the season, but I actually think it's an interesting possible option. And the other Villa player you'd really be interested in, bar Coutinho, is Emi Martinez. Pope v De Gea. There's not really the room for space. Martinez at the moment. Yeah. Do I go with budget option Jacob Ramsey just for sake of it? He will pick up the odd tiers, but I think the attractiveness of Jacob Ramsey, although still a very good option, I think he's like 5.8. The attractiveness of him, I think, is kind of lessened now that Coutinho's come in. It looks like he's going to be playing a deeper role. So I think it is often going to be 2 pointers going forward for Jacob Ramsey. So that's it. Spin off from just saying Burnley v Watford. What do I want to do? Okay, now I need to think about what I'm doing with Southampton, Manchester United and Aston Villa as well. Mm-hmm. Let's, of course, we go Josh King.
Southampton, United and Aston Villa.
As a spin-off for myself personally, in terms of what I do. So I know that if I start with Weghorst, I'm either going to Broya or I'm holding him for a while, which I don't really want to do. And it means, obviously, if I go that route, I'm obviously going against Ward-Prowse, who's obviously going to be very popular. Ward-Prowse is going to be very popular because the Friday night fixture, Southampton versus Norwich. I think it's safe to say that a Southampton option would be the best option. I also think it's safe to say that James Ward-Prowse will be the most captained and most likely the best option. I just really like Armando Broya at 6.6. They've got some terrific fixtures, starting with Everton on Saturday the 19th. And as I said, there isn't an entry point for them that makes sense in terms of a fixture game. It's either start with them, or are you going to sacrifice your Burnley player for a Southampton player as early as Wednesday? And should you be making a transfer that early? I still think it would arguably be worth it. But that could very easily, if I go Weghorst, captain Saturday, and then play him Tuesday, could easily be 6 points, couldn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to be sticking
or he could get sent off.
I think I'm going to be starting with JWP, but then I have recency bias from the last 5 or 6 weeks pre-overhaul where he did very well for me. But I just think, James Ward-Prowse for me is where I'll probably end up to solve my Southampton problem. Villa, I might end up without.
Could come back.
Yeah, I'll always come back to Villa. And Manchester United, if I don't go with Ronaldo, I might go without.
What's really interesting as well, for my fixture ticker, I've tracked the difficulty for all the teams as far as we can see for the TV fixtures. And what I mean by that is for match week 30, which clashes with the FA Cup quarter-final, I've only included Aston Villa versus Arsenal in that because that's the only fixture we know definitely is going to go in there. And guess what? Between now and that fixture, Villa come out top for me.
Okay.
Best of the lot. Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton, Southampton, West Ham, Arsenal. It's a good run of fixtures as well. Kind of feels like you should take advantage of it. I do want I do want a Villa player in there. There isn't the necessity for a captaincy option in there, but as we said, there's a good chance they're going to play in that midweek of match week 27, and if they do, they're highly likely to be the best option on a single game day.
Yeah.
Therefore, with the fixtures they've got, should you consider starting with one? I don't think there's a need for them captaincy. Of captaincy, I think there's certain things we do need. So, City, particularly when you look at the first couple as well. Brentford, on Wednesday, you get to see the team. If Cancelo's in it, I think that's a fairly straightforward captaincy if he is. It's worth noting Cole Walker is obviously suspended for their Champions League games, so that might put a little bit of doubt into him playing against Norwich on Saturday the 12th. But Manchester United offer an alternative, and you get to see the United lineup for the 12:30 game against Southampton that day. You're definitely going to want something United, unfortunately, because you've got the Brighton game. You've also got Sunday the 20th.
Well, if you have a Webster, you don't need coverage for the Brighton game.
Well, no, that's interesting. Dunker's obviously an alternative option.
Yep.
That's very true, that your cover for United could be, Brighton. But then if you look at Sunday the 20th, I think it offers a different problem. So there's 2 fixtures Sunday the 20th. Those are Leeds versus Manchester United and Wolves versus Leicester. Leicester, I think most people are going to go without at the moment. Remember, obviously, if they keep progressing in Europa Conference League, then the chance of them having an extra fixture added are near none. However, should, as I said, they lose to Nottingham Forest on Sunday, it is highly likely they will play in the midweek following match week 27. Of course, if that happens, that would be a good entry point, by the way, for Leicester, is to go in on that Sunday when they play Wolves. But as it stands, if you say don't go with Rafinha, you're probably not going any Leicester. Are you going with Sarr? There's another goalkeeper problem.
I am going with
Max Kilman.
Max Kilman.
Or Cody. Cody's a little bit more, isn't he? But I would go Kilman.
I'm going Max Kilman at 6.2. I'm swerving United here.
So Max Kilman would give you, again, some cover for that. Because, I mean, if you take that as well, United against Leeds Sunday the 20th, and the way Leeds play, it's the sort of one they might leave Ronaldo out.
I think Wolves at home to Leicester, depending on what state Leicester are in, and they've obviously got a lot of games to play. I'd quite fancy Wolves for a clean sheet there. I don't mind Max Kilman. Every now and then, you end up with a budget player like a Norgard that just gives you something for captaincy. Max Kilman's fine for that. I mean, if I had a little bit extra, I'd consider Aït-Nouri just because of the additional attacking threat, but I don't think I want it. I'm happy with Kilman.
So here's kind of similar idea, right? Would you then consider going with, if you set up in, say, a 4-3-3, would you consider going Weghorst, effective 5 for 2, to then buy Kilman that day? So you'd have Weghorst, Watford at home, captain, Man United, Liverpool, Brighton. You'd miss Kilman at home to Arsenal and away to Tottenham, effective 5 for 2. So you could go in and attack it, and by the time you get there, you might decide, oh shit, actually Leicester have got that extra fixture in 27. Maybe I need the Leicester player. So you don't physically need to look at that and go, I need to cover that now, because it might be that attacking Wolves' fixtures kind of turn from there. Leicester might have an extra fixture drop in, possibly if they lose on Sunday. You can attack one of those two teams then. Or of course you can come back for Rafinha then as well.
That's true. Yeah, I don't mind that. Keep your options open.
I think Sunday the 20th is the sort of one, and that might be the one where people look at the kind of move off of a Pope, perhaps another Burnley asset. I'm really not big on the other defensive assets. I mean, it's good that Tarkowski stayed and stuff. With United and Liverpool and Brighton away, this is the problem with Pope as well. What are we actually expecting from him?
Some clean sheets, I think.
Well, I guess if we got 22 points from Watford on Saturday, we'd all be absolutely delighted with that, wouldn't we? But afterwards, United, Liverpool, Brighton, Palace, Chelsea. It's not great, is it?
Burnley will pick up points when you least expect it.
We know. We know.
I think Burnley are going to really put a good run together. I really do. And this is just going off previous experience of Sean Dyche getting them together. They've had their break. The transfer window's out the way. Weghorst has come in. Cornesi's going to be back from AFCON. I think Tarkowski didn't leave. Me's there. I think they'll just get some rhythm.
Is that looking at that Sunday the 20th to attack? Let's say you just had Ronaldo that day. And let's say Burnley didn't have an extra fixture in that midweek after 27 for whatever reason. Drop Pope to De Gea then, couldn't you?
Yeah,
go
exactly.
Pope to Jose Sarr. It might even be Kasper Schmeichel. You might even then look and go, oh my God, Leicester have still got 4 games to rearrange or so. Particularly if maybe they end up playing Brentford in game week 30, should those two teams go out of the FA Cup. So there's spin-offs in terms of your plan, right? And I haven't formulated in terms of what I want to do. The other one we definitely need coverage of course, is Liverpool. Mm-hmm. I think it's worth starting with Mo Salah. There is a little bit of debate at the moment in terms of not starting with him. I'm waiting to see if he's in the team on Thursday. So you could even do that sort of thing. You could go Weghorst, leave all the money in the bank, or Josh King, leave all the money in the bank, buy Salah on Thursday if he's in the team, or wait till the Sunday and you'll get the team again against Burnley and then attack it then. If you were to go down that route, though, and wait till the Sunday, you'd actually be better off going with Josh King rather than Weghorst, because obviously it's actually Burnley that do play Liverpool on that Sunday.
I'm starting with Trent, probably.
The other thing, of course, you've got to be careful of is if you're planning that way, Wolves v Arsenal, Liverpool, Leicester are the only 2 games Thursday. So do you risk from the start just going with Salah and not having anyone from the other 3? Leicester don't appeal. Arsenal don't really appeal either, because as it stands, they've only got 2 games between now and Sunday the 6th of March. And there are other teams that have got, I mean, Burnley have actually got 6 fixtures before Arsenal play Watford on Sunday the 6th, as it stands. So starting with an Arsenal player, if you're putting a captaincy in there as well as effective 7 for 2, doesn't particularly make sense. Does that force you to look at, say, Max Kilman again, for example, to start with him as a backup option? Or do you obviously go double Liverpool? Do you go with Trent?
I'll go with Trent and Salah. It's my current thinking to go with both.
That's my thought process at the moment as well. So think City, Liverpool, United. And I think for United, we are generally saying De Gea, Fernandes, Ronaldo, aren't we?
Yep.
There's not. Since Ranić's come in, Harry Maguire's picked up Parsentia twice. He's the only Manchester United player to pick up Parsentia in that period since Ranić's come in. And remember, they had fucking easy fixtures all through it, didn't they? So I think it's De Gea, Ronaldo, or Fernandes if you want to set up differently. Fernandes will still be a really good differential option. And the beauty with Bruno is he's more likely to play all the games, isn't he? I think West Ham. I think
We've
Jared.
got
I think
a single game day against Wolves, haven't we?
Well, there is that Sunday
stands.
27th, but the other thing is, remember, when you've got, let's say, the Sunday fixture, you don't have to cover it from the start. It's not as awkward covering that now that fixture's been moved to Sunday 27th in the same way. Southampton, Norwich, as I've said, Southampton, really, you want to start with it unless you're planning to attack it off of Burnley from the start, which, I mean, just saying that out loud, using the transfer on a Burnley player to a Southampton player doesn't sound quite right. That's why most people are going to start with James Ward-Prowse. I might even just start with Armando Broja anyway and go, right, that's where I'm going, and possibly use that to go differently. Wolves-West Ham on that Sunday the 27th, you could end up attacking them on that day. Yeah. So that's not a problem. Yeah. We just spoke about you might have to attack Wolves on the Sunday before that, on Sunday the 20th. It's more, I think, Tuesday night, Tuesday the 8th.
Literally around the corner.
I mean, just looking next week, what do you want? Do you want Bowen at home to Watford, or do you want Ronaldo or De Gea at Burnley?
Give me Bowen.
That's where I'm at with it at the moment as well.
Yeah.
I think his ownership's going to be really big. He's good value. He's in fantastic form. So, yeah, I mean, at the moment, I'd be looking to captain Jared Bowen next Tuesday. So, therefore, I think I'd want to start with him. From a captaincy perspective, that's all you need. I've looked further ahead. So, I mean, if you want to look really far ahead, Friday the 18th, you've got Wolves versus Leeds. That fixture will go anyway if Wolves make the FA Cup quarterfinals. Chelsea, you need to keep in the back of your mind, because obviously they've got the fixture against Palace Saturday the 19th, and that's it as it stands up to Burnley on Saturday the 5th of March. Now, that day, Liverpool are at home to West Ham, so there are captaincy alternatives. You don't need to steam straight back into Chelsea. But I think they might have a midweek fixture straight afterwards. So it might be that you want to in any case. Obviously, you could attack it in the midweek if they do. And they've got a brilliant run of fixtures from Saturday the 5th. What is beautiful about Chelsea, if they don't have a fixture added in the midweek after match week 28th, kind of around about Wednesday the 9th of March, they don't play Newcastle until Sunday the 13th. So there is an entry point. You would, if you're one of them who obviously wants to wait for the fixture gain rather than going straight in, Sunday the 13th they play Newcastle. So, I mean, between now and then, again, you're looking at Burnley, for example, 4, 5, 7 fixtures over Chelsea's 2 over that period. Throwing a captaincy, you're looking at 8 for 2, for example. There are other teams who have sort of 6v2s over Chelsea. So I think there's too little for Chelsea at the start with. But I highlight that Newcastle game as well because I think Sunday the 13th, Chelsea at home to Newcastle looks the best captaincy option. West Ham are at home to Villa that day, so Bowen is an alternative, and Arsenal host Leicester. But I think Sunday the 13th, you'd ring that as a kind of point to go back into Chelsea, although, as I said, I think they'll play in that midweek, probably on Wednesday the 9th of March. I actually think Norwich away is probably the most likely fixture for them at the moment if they make the FA Cup quarter-finals. Tottenham need to be discussed. Tottenham play at home to Everton Monday the 7th is another single game day we've now got. Now, the first thing again is it's a Monday. You can enter on them that night, of course. Southampton, Wolves, Man City, Leeds are the 4 fixtures before. And what's interesting is Tottenham are always covered up by one of the other big boys in those 4 fixtures. So, I mean, next Wednesday you've got, let's say it's Kane or Son. Sonny we think is going to be fit, by the way. At home to Southampton, City got Brentford. You're going to see the team. Do you need it? What if Cancelo wasn't in the team? What alternatives have you got? Well, most of us are still going to go with Conor Gallagher. He's got Norwich away. So there are alternatives that night. Then Tottenham play Wolves at home on Sunday the 13th. Liverpool got Burnley away. If you've got the 2 Liverpool options, I think you're going that, aren't you, rather than Tottenham at home to Wolves. The following week, Tottenham go to City. You're not considering captaincy there. The following week, Saturday 26th, Tottenham go to Leeds. It is the 12:30 kickoff, and Leeds is always an attractive fixture, I think, if you've got a Sky Fantasy forward against them because of the shot volume that they can concede in games. But that same day, Manchester United host Watford and Manchester City go to Everton. Again, you don't need the Tottenham coverage. So there is a case for waiting. And with that in mind, Cristiano Ronaldo is obviously at a similar price to Harry Kane. And there's a lot of debate whether to start with him or not. I've seen a lot of people debating Ronaldo versus Kane. The way I would see it at the moment is if you entered for, say, Kane or even Son on that Monday the 7th, you're missing 4 Tottenham games. And in that period, you've got 6 Manchester United games and there's probably a few captaincies in there. And you would go Ronaldo after they play Manchester City. Yes, you'd hold on for the last one. Sunday the 6th of March, and invest in your Tottenham asset there on Monday the 7th. You do not need to start with a Tottenham player because they have that single game day.
Can you stop answering all the Twitter questions in your explanation?
I haven't even looked at them. Sorry, mate. I never do.
No, I'm just messing because there are questions like, should we start with Kane or Ronaldo, for example? Just means you're covering all bases, which is really interesting. I've got Kane in my draft, but I've almost got him there as a placeholder.
I thought you hadn't done one.
No, in my team that's in there. It's not really.
By the way,
draft.
I'm not saying that I won't start with Kane or Son either, but I just can't see it. I can't see Kane over
he's
Ronaldo
there as a
at the moment.
placeholder more than anything else, Kane. I could easily downgrade it to Sonny. I could easily move it elsewhere, but no, I'm coming back to it further down the line. Like, one of the things we talked about in last week's pod, if you'll remember the title, was reverse engineering and things like Max Kilman needed on this date. Put him in. And then have a look at, well, if I didn't start with him and I've got what money, what can I get before I need him that will give me an extra couple of fixtures, or is a better quality player with better fixtures or whatever else. So, always figure out what your direction of travel is and then reverse engineer, can you do it? Do you want to do some of these Twitter questions then?
Yeah, we can do. I just think in terms of coverage, there's nothing else necessity-wise you absolutely need. I think in terms of entry points in the first week or so, the only one you should be making in the first week is if you're generally considering that kind of Burnley 3-for-0 strategy, or if you are thinking that you want to attack something else before buying Mo Salah in case he's not in the team on Thursday. My outlook on it would be I'm definitely going to want Mo Salah. I don't really want him to be part of a transfer in when I know that down the line I'm definitely going to want to invest in Chelsea from kind of that midweek match week 28 period, for example. United Brighton, again, you could go without and you could just attack them on that Tuesday night, the 15th. We're all going to get an injury early that we're not probably expecting, or a suspension early, and it could be that you could attack the fixture there, for example. Wolves, we've highlighted Sunday the 20th as an entry point. Just to highlight another couple, interestingly, perhaps Brentford, Saturday the 26th. Now, Saturday might sound a little bit strange, but I'm just thinking if you want to come off your Southampton or Norwich asset the night before, it's the start of an interesting run of fixtures. For Brentford, I'm thinking Christian Eriksen maybe gives us a chance. I can't see anyone wanting to start with him now, but it might give us a chance to see what he's about and if he can still be the player that we knew that he obviously was. Because if he does, then he's interesting. I think Chelsea, you go into either Saturday the 5th, Sunday the 13th, or if they have that midweek fixture in the middle. Arsenal, the fact that they don't play Watford till Sunday the 6th means that's a really obvious entry point for Arsenal, especially considering we know that they're definitely going to play in the match week 30 FA Cup quarterfinals, which would cover you off an Aston Villa problem. But again, you have to consider that fixtures may get thrown in here, and I think Arsenal may have a fixture thrown in possibly between the Brentford game and their fixture and their blank on the midweek of the Carabao Cup final. I think you can map it, and Tottenham obviously Monday the 7th. It might even be that it's Everton by then. It might even be with Tottenham by the time it comes around Monday 7th. You might even, someone like Eric Dyer. I had a look back at Tottenham's kind of passing numbers over the last month or so, and the centre-backs are certainly increasing it. And Dyer plays a very similar role for Tottenham as to what Lewis Dunk does for Brighton and Connor Cody for Wolves. So his passing tiers, the numbers are starting to go up and up for Dyer. Remember, he did miss a period because of injury as well. So Dyer's one, I think, to keep in the back of your mind. He's not one that I'd be looking to start with, I don't think. Let's do some Twitter cues. Sorry, I've spoken
Okay. Enough. FPL Bernie Mac says, in response to the tweet about what we're going to cover off for Sky, will you be doing the same for FPL? No. We don't pod about FPL.
No, generally I'd recommend that pod yesterday because I speak a lot about what fixtures might drop in. I have mentioned a few of them like Villa, Burnley. Yeah. It's worth saying, like I mentioned about Tottenham, we've heard rumours that Brighton v Tottenham might go into, say, match week 26.
Yeah.
Then that would add to the appeal of Kane. And obviously we know United can't have any more fixtures in. I think there's that with the Ronaldo versus Kane debate as well, in terms of people looking at it and going, well, hang on, I can see all Man United's fixtures. Now the Brighton game's been arranged. I know Kane's got 3 fixtures that can drop in anywhere. And with the opponents we've got, Arsenal, Burnley, Brighton, ideally, probably at this moment, if you were just dropping that in tomorrow, you would want a Harry Kane or a Heung-min Son, if any of those were a single game day at the moment. Although I'd argue possibly the Brighton defensive player over Tottenham player. But let's say it does drop him to the midweek after Tottenham play Manchester City, then I think you could just go and buy then, to be honest.
FPL Hambone's got 2 questions. I like these because they're very simple and straightforward. I love the easy ones. Question number 1.
Don't you, Jost?
What's your plan for Salah? Start with him.
I think so, yeah.
And question number 2. Are you considering going without any United players? Yes.
I think I'm likely to start with Ronaldo. I think what might spook me, I know that I want to go quite heavy defensive. I know that's where it's at. I know I'm going to want Rudiger. I know that probably when I want to invest in Arsenal, it's probably going to be Gabriel at the moment, for example. So I want Cancelo. I want Trent. I agree with you. I think Adam Webster, Brighton, possibly Laporte again. I'm not so bothered that City don't have extra fixtures because still bloody Manchester City. And I don't think we should overlook that necessarily. And again, I think because of Cancelo and the no extra fixtures, I think Laporte might get overlooked a fair bit again, actually. I'm really interested to see what his ownership will be like at the weekend once the overhaul closes, because really he should be in a lot of teams at his value, but you're also probably never going to captain him unless you can see the City team.
I think that's what
and know that Cancelo's not in it. But again, it offers you a secondary option. There's always the possibility they could both get left out. And with the Champions League restarting, rotation is likely to increase for City, which makes it a little bit scary. So Laporte's borderline for me.
DB saying, what's your plan for Chelsea? Am I right in thinking that we can wait until Sunday the 13th of March? With Chelsea, defensive is the way. You mentioned Rudiger there. I would have thought that maybe Reece James might be an alternative if he's fit and available.
Yeah, could be.
I'd rather own Reece James than own Rudiger, although Rudiger's consistent. I've had him since game 1.
No, Rudiger.
You think Rudiger?
Yeah, all day long. I'd rather have Thiago Silva than Reece James under this format, I think, as well. The problem with Thiago is once that Champions League restarts, but he's had a number of periods this season now where he's played 3 times in a week and stuff. That's always the little concerning with him, but he's incredible. Thiago Silva's like 8.6, man. If you knew he was going to play every week. And there is a case for that. When it drops that you go, yeah, sod it. I'm going back in Mendy, Thiago Silva, Rudiger, Reece James, blanket, something like that, because the fixtures are so good. And I think even more so, especially As I've said, I think there's a strong possibility Chelsea will play in the midweek, sort of Tuesday the 8th, Wednesday the 9th of March. It can't be Leicester if they continue to progress in the Europa Conference League. It could be Arsenal, but it's subject to what day of the week that is. Interestingly, because Arsenal and Chelsea both play Sunday the 13th, they could play each other on Thursday the 10th of March without moving any additional fixtures. And I'm sure Sky will want to show the game, Chelsea v Arsenal. And it would be better for them, obviously, to show it on the Thursday night. It doesn't clash with the Champions League. I'm sure BT would be happier with that as well. So Chelsea-Arsenal Thursday the 10th is a possibility. I've also said to you, I think the Norwich fixture in match week 30 could even be brought forward to then. And obviously, if that's the case, and Chelsea go to Norwich Wednesday the 9th, it's not one anyone's going to skip. It's just a question of how many Chelsea at that point, I think.
Yeah. I can summarise the kind of questions into a number of talking points. So fixtures and enablers are kind of two of them. Enablers, we've been asked by people like, who are the three best enablers? And then the second question that's come up a couple of times is, which enablers or how many enablers do you foresee going with? Firstly, I guess it's a definition of what is an enabler.
Yeah.
What price do we say enabler? But there are a number of good ones. Norgard, Kilman.
I think you even put Webster into that
Webster.
bracket, I think, at 7 million.
If you really wanted one of the strikers out of Watford, would you go Dennis?
Well, Veghorst arguably is one at the
Is
start.
another.
I really like Armando Broja.
Yeah, there's a number.
Jacob Ramsey at Villa.
I'm likely to start with two as it stands. Well, no. I could end up with two in Kilman and Webster. Whether I start with them or manoeuvre my way to them, like reverse engineer, I'm going to end up with them eventually, is to be seen. But if I end up with Kilman and Webster in the, I can't even call it a draft, but the playing around that I've done, I have De Bruyne, Salah and Kane. So I've got three big hitters in there, and Cancelo, and Trent, and Jared Bowen. So suddenly I'm like, okay, this is all right. And I don't mind Max Kilman and Webster. So I'm likely to start with those two and kind of go from there. Conor Gallagher, 7.2. Is he an enabler?
7.3, isn't
7.3.
he? I guess he is, isn't he?
Yeah. So
I think, to be honest, the under 8 million in this format, you're probably in there. I think the real ones under 7, so under Webster, are the real, the Kilmans, the Broyers, the Jacob Ramseys, the Christian Norgards are the real enablers. But then you wouldn't put the keepers at that price as in kind of
keepers
enabler
always slightly
bracket.
different. Yeah. So if you count Gallagher, Webster, Kilman, those are the three that I have in Mickey Mouse at the moment.
I'm pretty sure I'll start with Gallagher. I think the rest of the makeup of my squad is going to be quite dictated by the knock-on effect of the Burnley decision and whether it's Ward-Prowse or Broja for me.
FPL Canal and also, who was it? It was Ron asked the question, how many of the rearranged fixtures do you expect to be single game days?
I think there's a fair chance that anything that's arranged additionally up till the FA Cup quarterfinals could be a single game day.
Okay, so quite a few.
I think it's possible. I still think, as I've said to you on that pod yesterday, I still think there's a small possibility of Chelsea versus Arsenal actually going into match week 25. Still think that's a small possibility. It would almost definitely, if it happened, be the Wednesday evening, by the way, the night after Manchester United play Brighton, if that did happen. And again, if that suddenly drops, you can go and attack back into Chelsea or Arsenal then, if that's the case. As said, we've heard rumours about Brighton Tottenham in match week 26. We have to assume that I think match week 26 and match week 29, there could be additional fixtures for Liverpool. Again, as I said to you yesterday on that pod, my hunch is that Liverpool end up playing Arsenal on the Thursday before the Carabao Cup final. Could be Leeds instead, admittedly. So there's a couple of extra fixtures for Liverpool. Those could be single game days. Burnley have obviously, with the numbers they've got, could drop at any point. We've got the FA Cup 5th round midweek. The interesting one with that is, if, say, they decide Leeds v Villa is going to go on one night, are Amazon going to be happy to clash with, obviously, terrestrial television coverage of whatever FA Cup 5th round games are on between BBC and ITV, right? So I think there's a fair chance that anything that gets added to a midweek between now and match week 30 could be a single game day.
Okay. 2 more questions that I think are interesting. FF Joe, Scout, good old Joe,
Hello,
wants
Joe.
to know. Pope to De Gea, he's got down as a very popular transfer that's going to happen early on. Are there any other premeditated transfers that you think are going to be popular? People already setting themselves up to go from player A to player B.
I think that Ronaldo to Kane, actually, the Monday night Tottenham play Everton, or earlier if Tottenham get, say, the Brighton fixture put into 26, if that rumoured game turns out to be correct. There's no rush to organise that fixture, by the way. That's just a rumour that we've heard, which interestingly would potentially mean single game days for Brighton extra. I mean, you could use to cover Manchester United and Tottenham, you could use Webster to cover both, couldn't you, in theory? And I think that I wouldn't be desperate. Like if Brighton Tottenham did go in there and I had Webster, I know Brighton had it passing tier against Tottenham, no problem at all. So I mean, I wouldn't be that fussed to be desperate to get Kane for that fixture, but obviously open up an opportunity to do so. The thing with the Pope to De Gea, and I get that completely because I've obviously thought about that myself as well, is the longer you leave it, the worse it looks for De Gea. They obviously, from Sunday the 6th, they play Man City. Then it's Tottenham Saturday the 12th. They're scheduled to play Liverpool Sunday the 20th, but that will probably be postponed. That only needs either of those teams to make the FA Cup quarter-final. And then suddenly, from Saturday the 12th of Tottenham, there's going to be big gains on a few other teams over Manchester United, knowing that there's no extra game for them to arrange in that period either. So the longer you leave that move, the worse it looks. Now, there is a case to say, okay, I've looked at this as well. Go Pope for 3, Watford, Manchester United, Liverpool, and then probably even 4, Brighton, and then go into De Gea, say, when United play Leeds on Sunday the 20th. But by that point, you've missed United against Burnley, Southampton, Brighton. Then you're going in for what, Leeds, Watford. Then it's Man City afterwards. So the longer you leave it, the more off-putting that becomes. It's part way I sort of want to start with De Gea, really.
Last question of the show, James, which is the one that we always get.
Go on.
How many transfers? But
for what?
Oh, this is it. I'll give Dave the question.
I've got 20. How many
no.
You don't even know how many.
I've got 25.
You've got 25. I'm surprised it's not 35.
Mate. Dave's question actually is how many. The big weeks are game week 29, double game week 33, double game week 36.
Yep.
So he's interested in knowing how many you hope to have left for the landmarks of 33, 36, 29, 33, 36. 36 is very close to the end, so maybe 5.
Well, what's interesting about those weeks is certainly there will be gains. Of course there will. But as discussed yesterday, I think as many as 18 teams could play in that midweek in 36.
So all your players
will have
games.
So in which case, there'll almost be like just dropping an extra set of fixtures in if it's that many. There will obviously be gains, but because of the sheer volume of postponements, those 3 midweeks at the moment, it's unlikely to be that you're going to miss the captaincy somewhere. You're going to be able to set it up and go, even if you're missing, I don't know, say it's West Ham, Leicester, and you've got no coverage on a Thursday night, and you go, oh, well, go and buy one then or something. I think it'll be quite predictable and obvious. So some of the more interesting gains are now. Look at the fact that Chelsea have got 2 games between now and when they play Newcastle Sunday the 13th as it stands. There's other teams playing 5-6 times in the middle. Is the game further ahead going to be bigger than that? No, it's now, isn't it? So he's set up for it.
So the answer to your question, Dave, is less than you think. You'll need less than you think then to potentially gain.
I think yes. It depends. It depends so much on how many of the favourites do well in Europe and do well in the FA Cup. If the favourites do well in Europe, particularly the Champions League, and obviously in Leicester's case, I mean, there'll be massive Leicester gain at the end. If Leicester gets to the semi-finals of the Europa Conference League and get to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, I think Leicester could end up playing 6 games in the final 3 weeks.
Wow.
But then if they're in the Europa Conference final as well, let's say they're in the FA Cup final as well, we're going to buy Kasper Schmeichel just because, like,
I get it.
Admittedly, it's a save team, mate. It was really, really unpredictable, but my instincts right now would be there won't be as many games because so many teams are going to have the fixtures in there, and the chances are you will have captaincy coverage. It's the bigger problems are going to be the fixtures that drop in over these next kind of 4 or 5 weeks or so, I think.
Okay. Listeners, hope you enjoyed this rambling on.
We're assuming there will be. God.
Yeah. We obviously do more Sky content for our patrons as well. So if you are interested in getting James's fixture planning spreadsheet and joining a very active Slack community who share a lot of ideas around drafts and overhaul and all of that kind of stuff, just head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. It's the start of the month.
I undersold that this week, mate.
Well, it's the start of the month. It's well worth it.
It's not just that. It's 2 Sky podcasts still to come this week.
Indeed, there are, including our free hit overhaul reveals. Overhaul reveals on Friday.
Subject to fixture drop, but yeah, we're gonna go through final drafts on our Patreon podcast on Friday. And we've got a Sky Fantasy quiz tomorrow as well.
Yeah, indeed. Patreon.com/Planet FPL. We would love to have you there. Tomorrow, Clash of the Correspondents. James is on with
Johnny Pringle, Tom Med, Manchester City versus Brentford.
Nice. And on Friday will be a differential show where we'll be running down... No, remind me, you're streaming, aren't you?
God, I wish you'd look at the schedule
sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I do tweet it out for everybody. On Patrons, our Sky podcast Friday, that is the differential show.
Nice.
I'll be streaming on YouTube. Might be later than advertised time.
Originally 12, a couple of hours later.
It might end up being 5 or 6, actually.
Nice. Okay, so stay tuned and you'll know when James will be going live on YouTube. Other than that, just always thank you so much for listening and your support. I hope you enjoyed it. Do share the pod as and when, and look after yourselves. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Very best of luck. Play it your way. Cue music, please, man child.